not me.
Miss Burnett, back here, Miss Burnett, where the radio guys are. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You know, I had the pleasure of seeing a few weeks ago at a little comedy club in Hollywood, a sketch comedy group by a woman named Caroline Anderson. And the work was real reminiscent of what you used to do on television. And I asked her if you were her muse, if you will. She said, absolutely, trying to bring that style of comedy back. It is something sorely missed. Do you see your style of comedy, sketch comedy in particular, like this Caroline Anderson is doing, coming back at all?
I would hope so. I would hope it never left. You know, I think that a lot of the comedy today that I see on television and stuff, it's I don't mind edgy. I'm not a prude by any means of the imagination. I like edgy comedy, but I also think there is room for just plain old happy belly laughs. And you don't really see that too much anymore. You know, just and I sound like an old fogey, but look at our Saturday night lineup that we had back then. It was All in the Family, Norman Lear, wow, MASH, Mary Tyler Moore, Bob Newhart, and our show. And it was all clever, and it holds up today. And there was no pandering to base instincts. And I just wish that some of it would be elevated today by some of the writing on television. A lot of, some of the sitcoms that I see, I won't name them, but they make me feel like they might be being written by teenage boys in a locker room. You know, it's easy to get those kinds of laughs. So I would like to see cleverness come back, you know, and it does exist in some shows, but not in enough.
Hi, Miss Burnett. Right here. Hi, I'm H. Allen Scott with Fusion. And first I have to say, Eunice, Mama's Family Eunice, was like my inspiration as a young stand-up.
Wow.
Her mannerisms, I just had to. Young female comics. There's a lot of, I mean, Amy Schumer's out there and the Broad City Girls, and there's such a sort of awakening of this great female talent out there. What would you say to, because you kind of held a place as a female comic in the 70s that was doing your own thing, what would you say to young female comics wanting to do exactly what you did in the 70s?
Just do it. You know, see, the thing was, I was not a stand-up comic. I'm a sketch performer, and I like to be on stage with other people so I can lock eyeballs with them, and we have a scene. I remember when I was doing the Gary Moore show, way back, one of our guests one week was Ed Wynn, who was a wonderful vaudevillian comic. And we got on the subject of comedy around the table one day, and he talked about the difference between comics and comedic actors. And Gary Moore said, well, what is the difference? And Ed said, well, a comic says funny things, like Bob Hope. And a comedic actor says things funny, like Jack Benny. And so I realized that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to say things funny. I can't tell a joke to save my soul.
Alex Kramer with Hollywood Life.
Hi.
Particularly as it pertains to women in comedy, can you talk about what you think the biggest or most important changes you've seen over the course of your career?
Changes in comedy?
For women in comedy.
Oh, for women? Well, the change is that there are more women. And I'm really happy for that, and especially, you know, and Amy and Tina, you know, running their own shows, writing and producing and doing all of that. It's a beautiful, beautiful way that things have changed, and I think they're going to get better. Women in comedy are much more respected now. You know, you look at Kristen Wiig. Wow, what does she do? She's fabulous, and also now. Television, they're allowing women to go more into movies, too. We used to be pigeonholed, pretty much, you know. But I think the big change is that there are more and more and more women comedians who are being accepted.
Hi.
Yes, do you have a mic?
Hi, sorry. Amanda with Closer Weekly.
What can you tell us about your friendship with Lucille Ball? Can you share any great memories you had with her?
Well, the first time I met her was the second night of Once Upon a Mattress. She came to see me off Broadway, and I was more nervous that night seeing her than I was opening night. I peeked out of the curtains, and there was orange red hair in the second row, and I was really nervous. And after the show, she came back to my funky little dressing room off Broadway with a coil that came out of the couch. She sat and talked to me for about 25 minutes, and she called me kid because she was 22 years older than I. And just as she was leaving, she said, "Kid, if you ever need me for anything, give me a call." So a few years later, I was asked by CBS to do a special if I could get a major guest star. And so the producer said, "Carol, you ought to call Lucy. You know, she said that to you all, you know." And I said, "Well, I can't, I'd be too nervous." He said, "Well, all she can do is say no. Just call, ask." And so I did. I got her on the phone. And she said, "Hey, kid, you're doing great. What's happening?" And I said, I know you're really busy, Lucy. I don't want to bother you about it." She said, what are you talking about?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to be doing this special for CBS." And she didn't let me finish the sentence. She said, "When do you want me?" And so she was my guest on that. And we became very close friends. She gave me a baby shower, a black tie baby shower, with men attending. It was one of the funniest evenings ever. And her husband then, who was comedian Gary Morton, he opened all the baby gifts. And he did routines on everything. And it was just hysterical. But no, she was very... And she died on my birthday. Yeah, she would always send me flowers on my birthday, and she died on April 26th. And that afternoon, I got flowers from her that said, "Happy birthday, kid." Yeah. Yeah.
Ms. Burnett, Scott Hoover with People Magazine. As you touched upon, you're not just a comedian, you're an actress, and you've had a lot of great opportunities to be an actress throughout your career. What has that aspect meant to you, to step outside occasionally, just the sketch performing?
Well, I think, look at Steve Carell. Look at Michael Keaton. Look, I mean, you know, they were all funny people, and, you know, and they weren't, we were all pigeonholed at one point, you know, and it just takes that. Comedians are actors. You know, they are. I was very thrilled when I got the script to Friendly Fire. At first, I looked at the envelope 3 times to make sure my name was on it. I couldn't understand why they did it. But, you know, way back in England, you know, they don't pigeonhole. Like they can do Shakespeare, then they turn right around and do Noel Coward, then they'll turn right around and do a musical and so forth. You know, no pigeonholing. And I remember one time, our show was in syndication for a half hour, so all the musical numbers had been cut out. And so the syndicated show only showed the sketches. And one of my favorite sketch performers was Steve Lawrence, who has one of the greatest singing voices ever. And when we would do sketches, we did Take Us on Double Indemnity, Postman Always Rings Twice, African Queen, From Here to Eternity, and he's one of the best sketch comics I've ever worked with. So the show went into syndication. None of the musical numbers were shown. And Steve said that one time he and his wife Edie were at the airport, and these teenage girls ran up to him and they said, "You're that funny guy on the Burnett show." They had no idea he sang, that he was such a singer. So, you know, we can do it all.
Time for one more brief question.
Jeannie, do you want the mic?
Congratulations, first of all.
Thank you.
Those of us who know you a long time have followed ups and downs in your life. Has your sense of humor been the thing that helped you bounce back, or was your kind of optimism just born in you?
Well, I've always been optimistic. And I have a feeling that it happened because of going to all of those movies with my grandmother in the 40s, because there was no cynicism. The good guys made it, the bad guys didn't. If Mickey and Judy wanted to put on a show, they would do it and it would go to Broadway. So I never felt cynical, and I never felt that I couldn't do what I wanted to do. I wasn't thinking of having my name above a title. That wasn't it. But I knew I could work and make a living to put clothes on my back, food on the table, and pay the rent. And so that kept me going. There was one time, way, way early in New York, when I was up for a very small part in a Broadway show, and it was they narrowed it down to another girl and me, and I thought I had it, but I didn't. And something inside, and I have to thank the way I felt, something inside me said, you know what? It's her turn. Not my turn. It's her turn. My turn will come. And so that kept me from being discouraged, that attitude.
You should have seen the excitement in this room when everyone knew you were coming back.
Oh, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank
it's great.
you.